Okay, I'll give just another 10 to 15 seconds to have everybody else join. We are back out of executive session. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. Next thing on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have any special guests with us today, Dr. Anderson?
We absolutely do. We're highlighting career technical education. So we have two teachers to be from the teacher pathway. They're going to introduce themselves and they'll start us off with the pledge. Ainsley, you want to introduce yourself, and Ryan?
All right, I'll let Ainsley go first.
Hi, I'm Ainsley. I'm a junior at Topeka West. I also go to TCalc and I'm in the teaching pathway.
I'm also a junior at Topeka West and I'm at TCalc for the teaching pathway as well.
All right, and we're going to stand for the pledge, and you all will take yourself off mute, and the two of you all will lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was the best pledge I've heard all year long. I can tell that you're future teachers.
Thank you.
And with that pledge, a couple of things. The board members likely want to learn a little bit more about you. And we know we have some special guests, and you'll get a chance to talk much more later as we are talking about the teacher pathway. So Mr. Munoz, we're going to highlight them later. So we may want to save some of those questions for that time as well, sir.
That sounds great. Okay. Anything off? So you said we'll hold off questions for right now. Is that right, Dr. Anderson?
Yes, sir. We're going to be talking to them and meeting their awesome teachers a little bit later under this same highlight section. So we'll come right back to them and you'll get a chance to learn all about both Ainsley and Ryan.
All right, we'll do that then. Let's hold off on that. Just next thing on the item here after Pledge of Allegiance, thank you so much for that, is our adoption of the agenda. I'm looking for a motion to adopt the agenda for today. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the agenda as presented.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Boley. There is a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, second to Ms. Schmidt. Any discussion? All right, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move for a vote.
The vote is open.
Dr. Bowenbrake, are you giving a heads up? Yes. Okay, thumbs up there. And Mr. Tatum as well.
The vote is unanimous.
All right, thank you, Mr. Gowan. Okay, moving on now to the school highlights. I'll go ahead and hand it off to Dr. Anderson.
We are so excited this evening. So since we did just hear from Ainsley and Ryan, we're going to go back to that. We have a proclamation that'll be read. Dr. Morell, would you like to read the CTE proclamation? And then we're going to go right into a couple of teachers from TCalc and learning a little bit about Ainsley and Ryan. Dr. Morell?
Not Richard.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson. Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Anderson. Proclamation of Topeka United School District number 501, National Career and Technical Education Month, February 2022. Whereas February 1st through 28th, 2022 has been designated Career and Technical Education Month by the Association for Career and Technical Education, and whereas Career and Technical Education offers students opportunities for academic, technical, and employability skills necessary for true career readiness, and whereas students in career and technical education programs participate in authentic and meaningful experiences that improve the quality of their education and increase student engagement and achievement, and whereas career and technical education provides students with career exploration opportunities earlier in their educational experience, which enables them to make informed and beneficial decisions about their academic coursework, as well as pursuit of established programs of study and career pathways. And whereas leaders from business and industry nationwide report increasing challenges related to the skills gap and connecting qualified professionals with available careers in critical and growing CTE-related fields such as information technology. And whereas career and technical education prepares students for these and other fulfilling careers by offering integrated programs of study that link secondary and post-secondary education and lead to the attainment of industry-recognized credentials. And whereas ensuring that employers have access to a qualified workforce is a crucial step in ensuring productivity among the business and industry communities, as well as continued American economic growth and global competitiveness. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Board of Education of Unified School District Number 501, Topeka, Kansas, does proclaim February 2022 as National Career and Technical Education Month.
Thank you, Dr. Morrell. And on the heels of that, both of our students, we're going to go ahead and introduce our teachers that are here with us this evening. Miss Kimsey, who is also a coordinator in curriculum, in the Curriculum Teaching and Learning Department, and Miss Dixon, who's also a curriculum coordinator. But in addition to curriculum coordinating, they teach half day the teacher learning pathway. That's something new we did this year, is to have our current central office staff taking on that pathway. I'm going to turn it over to them to share just a little bit, and then Ainsley and both Ryan, we have a certificate we'll share with you and turn it over to the board for questions. Ms. Kimsey, do you have a sentence or two you'd like to share as we introduce our young people?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having us. This is an honor. Our kids are so excited about this opportunity. We are having a great time teaching them how to become teachers. And as a matter of fact, we had one of the first year teachers there at TCAC, she came into the classroom the other day and she said, you know what, your kids are learning things and doing things I didn't get to do until I was a student teacher. So we are really trying to let the kids experience everything they can possibly experience, get their feet wet, and try on this hat called teaching. So they're a great bunch of kids. We're pretty darn honored to have them.
Thank you, Ms. Kimsey. Did you want to add a sentence to that, Ms. Dixon? And then we'll turn it over to our young people.
Just, I can reiterate what Mrs. Kimsey has said, and it's amazing. Our students that are on are also have taken the para-pro test and are also ready to take on the challenge of teaching in the Topeka Public Schools in the future.
Thank you. So these young people have already received the paraprofessional test. If they want a job right away or at any point, they actually are employable as soon as they graduate as a paraprofessional as part of that program. All right, so Ryan, here's your certificate, and Ainsley, you have one just like it. We're delivering it on Tuesday. It says Topeka Public Schools District recognizes you for giving the pledge and joining us at this board meeting. All right, young people, take yourself off mute, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Munoz and the board to ask you a few questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Anderson. Well, love to just start off by having you each introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what got you interested in this pathway.
All right, I'll start us off. I got interested in teaching back in middle school thanks to a few of my teachers, as well as my mom is also a teacher here at she teaches at French in the district.
Well, awesome. Well, hello, Mom, and thanks so much, Ryan, for introducing yourself. Ainsley, tell us about yourself.
Ainsley might be frozen on this space.
She has a wonderful speech ready to give.
While we wait for her, are there other colleagues who have some questions for these two young people?
I do. Mr. Osterreich, are you related to Jason?
Yes, that's my dad.
Oh, I went to high school with him.
Oh, that's neat.
Good memories, good memories.
I see that Ainsley is back. So Ainsley, what got you into the teaching pathway? Mr. Munoz was just asking.
Yes, I've always really been interested in teaching ever since I was young, just having amazing role models to look up to. And I've just always loved school and education.
That is awesome. Other questions for these young people promising young people who we have today? Yes, Ms. Foley.
I was wondering, maybe starting with Ryan, what level of education are you interested in the elementary or upper? Which ones are you interested in coming in? And that would be my question.
All right. So right now, actually, we're doing observations. We've been doing them in different classrooms, and I've been observing fourth grade over at McClure with Miss Ritter. She's been awesome. But I've been very interested in like elementary, like third or fourth grade. But I'm also going to, oh, sorry about that, go observe a little at like middle schools and see how I like those as well.
Well, that is amazing. Ainsley, anything else you'd like to add in here?
Ainsley, share about Educators Rising.
Educators Rising is a national organization that we are involved in, and we were invited to compete at the regional competition at Mid-America Nazarene University in Olathe. 5 of us competed. We took first and second place, and we were invited to compete at state. And we've used the Topeka 501 curriculum maps to plan and carry out our lesson plans. And we are so excited to meet the judges in March in hopes to compete at nationals.
That is amazing. Congratulations, you two.
All right, Mr. Munoz, we congratulate both of you. It is CTE month, and so as that highlight for CTE, we'll bring up the pathways. Dr. Morell, is there a comment that you wanted to mention as we move from CTE month and go to our next highlight? As we bring up those pathways, I'll turn it over to Dr. Morell to see if there are a couple sentences he wants to mention about CTE technical education pathways.
Well, I just wanted to mention that we're fortunate that we have 17 approved pathways by the state, as you can see by the screen, and we hope to add another pathway at TCAP, so that'll give us 18. Just want to highlight again all of our students that are in career and technical education. We've been able to increase the number of CTE concentrators over the years. Also want to shout out to all of our CTE teachers who do a wonderful job of introducing our students to the different pathways. And last but not least, our business and industry partners throughout the Topeka region and our post-secondary partners who give our students great opportunities, whether it be internships or job shadowing, or just learning about the various opportunities available to them, as well as our post-secondary partners who provide dual credit opportunities. So thank you to all of them.
Thank you, Dr. Morell. And Dr. Morell helped plan with KSDE, the first apprenticeship program. We are the only district in Kansas. The very first student that is still a high school student will have their interview concluded and will begin March 1st with their own office at KSDE, working in technology 2 hours a day while still a student. We're excited about that new apprenticeship pilot. So as we move from there, and we're going to continue on with students first, and then we'll circle right on back to our MLK award and recognition that'll be given by Reverend Williams. So our next student, we actually have a USA ambassador on the line with us. We're so excited and privileged. And so you have a nice smile, Aaliyah. All right, we're gonna turn it over first to her principal just to kind of introduce who she is, and we'll turn it over to her to share a little bit about being an ambassador, a Girl Scout ambassador, and to receive this international award for her project in Kenya. Dr. Dadash, did you want to give an opening sentence before we turn it over to your student?
Absolutely. First of all, good evening. And I first want to say thank you to the board and Dr. Anderson and the district leadership for giving us the opportunity to recognize our students tonight. I'm a very proud principal, as we have 3 Topeka West students on here tonight. So I'm very proud of that, and thank you for that opportunity. This is a very proud moment for me, as much as it is for parents, I'm sure. Aaliyah is an awesome young lady. She shines bright in the classroom, as what she does in everywhere else, and certainly in her this Girl Scout project of hers. She's certainly the first student I've had to introduce and recognize on an international level for international awards. So I'm very proud of her. And with that said, Aaliyah, thanks for all you do, and thanks for being awesome. And Aaliyah, do you want to tell us a little bit about your project?
Hi, my name is Aaliyah Smith. I'm a junior and I attend Topeka West High School. And my Girl Scout Gold Award project is called the Community Poultry Project, and it is located in Macouney County, Kenya. I started this project as my Girl Scout Gold Award as an effort to improve the lives of many individuals. And this project is designed to address food insecurity and income inequality. This project is directed towards single mothers who experience the food insecurities, and most single mothers have limited employment opportunities. So we are providing them different training skills to teach them to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining in the art of negotiation. And my goal for this project when I finish is to be able to empower women with the knowledge and the skills and the business principles to transfer it to their children.
All right, Ms. Smith, we're going to turn it over to our board president. We do have a certificate for you, and we'll pull that up as well. We're going to deliver this to you on Tuesday. We know you're already being recognized and being given an award, but we also want to acknowledge you and your recognition here. And as you know, this is all being live streamed, so people from all over are watching you and being inspired by your actions. And the award says Aaliyah Smith for service and support of women and children in Kenya as a Girl Scout ambassador. We are so incredibly proud. I'll turn it over to Mr. Munoz.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. Aaliyah, congratulations on this amazing award and recognition. All of us, I think Dr. Dedesh said it, and I'll say it again, we're all very proud to hear that you're receiving this recognition. Any of my colleagues, do you have any questions for Aaliyah? Let's see, I have a couple of them. Let's go with Dr. Schumacher first, and then Mr. Tatum, and then Ms. Bowley.
Yeah, congratulations, Aaliyah, and
Thank you.
shout out to Topeka West with 3 excellent students at the board meeting tonight. Aaliyah, I'm interested in kind of what the genesis of, it seems so far away and such a foreign thing, but how did you start to become interested, and how did this idea kind of take hold?
I decided to choose Kenya to do this project in because in Girl Scouts, we're taught that we should give different communities who are forgotten hope and increase their self-esteem and give them different opportunities that they thought wouldn't be possible. And I believe that everybody deserves a chance, and that I wanted to help them find a way for that to happen.
That's great. Thank you.
Mr. Tatum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Aaliyah, I think what you are doing is fantastic. Thank you for stepping up to show leadership in service. And I want to ask you, because I have 2 daughters, a 6th grader and a 4th grader that are both Girl Scouts as well. And they're just starting on their Girl Scout career, but you've been in this for a while. So I'm curious, what advice or suggestions would you give my 2 daughters and other girls like them who are interested in really kind of maximizing their experiences in the Girl Scouts?
I would definitely say to them to make sure they dream big and live life with no limits, and the world needs them to take action right now, whether that be in their school, neighborhood, city, or state, or maybe just a different country.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ms. Bowley.
This is just amazing. And so the question that comes to my mind is, how did you get involved with Kenya, and how do you do that being a Topeka West student? How do you manage what you're trying to do there and that it's being accomplished?
Can you say that question one more time?
You're working from Topeka West, and how's the follow through with making sure your women are getting the chickens and that it's in Kenya? How are you managing all that and knowing that it's taking place?
I actually have a team of individuals, and a good amount of them live in Kenya. And I communicate with them every single day, and we discuss like how the women get the chickens and everything that's going on throughout the project. And I also meet with them on a regular basis.
And how is that funded? Are you funding that from this end?
Yes, all the money that I fund comes directly to me, and then we send it out as needed. And before we send it out, we always make sure that we know what that money is being sent it for.
Thank you so much for reaching out across the world and helping women that would never have this opportunity. It's a great thing that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, congratulations. Any other question before we? Okay, Ms. Smith.
Aaliyah, I know your mom and dad, and it's been so fun to watch you grow into this amazing, beautiful young lady. And I'm interested to know what your plans are as you're nearing the end of your high school career. I think you're a junior now, correct?
Yes.
So what do you hope for once you graduate?
Once I graduate, I hope to go to med school and become an OBGYN. And I would hopefully like to do that in Texas or at KU.
Outstanding. I have no doubt that you will accomplish anything that you put your mind to.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, sorry. I'll go ahead and turn it back to Dr. Anderson if you have anything else.
I think
Congratulations
Mr.
to all of these
Campbell,
students.
I think Mr. Campbell has one question, and then I'll just take it back from there.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so congratulations, Aaliyah. That is so cool. I too, this is something we have in common. I have a lot of affection for the whole continent of Africa and spent a year in the Republic of Congo teaching, and which brings me to a linguistic question. So you were telling Ms. Boley how you communicate daily with the people in Kenya. So are you using English, or have you picked up some Kiswahili? Or how is communication going?
I do use English, and as far as when I communicate with them, it's usually like late at night in the US or like super early in the morning. So then that way in Africa, it's like mid-evening or afternoon.
And follow up, Doctors Without Borders. So I'm sure you're familiar with that organization. So going into OBGYN, that might be something that you would really enjoy, working for Doctors Without Borders as an OBGYN.
Thank you.
Go to Kenya. Yes, thank you.
And we're so proud of you. You said you have a team of people in Kenya. That is really something for a high school student to have a team of people. I mean, so I did not know it was going to be Topeka West night between Ryan Ainsley and ending it off with some international acknowledgement with you, Aaliyah. We are so very proud of you. As I said, we will deliver your certificate. And here's the thing, on the heels of Ms. Stewart Campbell's comment, if you do decide that you want to learn another language or a Swahili or something like that to further your effort, Topeka Public Schools can assist with that, and that actually will give you some added credit as well as an opportunity to earn a biliteracy seal if you had another language. We have a student right now who actually is testing out in that same vein, I believe in Arabic, which we don't have an Arabic teacher, but they actually learned it, could still get that biliteracy seal. So if you decide you do want to take advantage of learning another language, then let your teachers know, and we will help you with that process. Again, we're proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Aaliyah, is Dr. Bonebrick. I'm a retired OBGYN, and I would encourage you to apply to my medical school alma mater, Northwestern. And if you need any assistance in doing that, I would be glad to help.
Thank you.
But I would encourage you to apply to Northwestern. It's in Chicago.
Okay, I will make sure I do. Thank you.
All right, with that, just our final highlight as we conclude with Ms. Smith. You just have to love a wonderful team. Ms. Cooney texted me, Dr. Bonebrake, and said, Dr. Bonebrake has his hand up, and you start talking right away. So sorry I missed that at the very end. So that leads us to Ms. Cooney. So we have Reverend Williams on with us, and we're going to start with reading this certificate. Turn it over to Reverend Williams. Reverend Williams, rather than me reading it, would you like to start with why we're here, recognizing McCarter Elementary and our amazing principal, Miss Cooney?
Good evening, Dr. Anderson and distinguished board members. The reason why we're here, I believe it was January the 5th through February the 1st, was the 5th annual Martin Luther King food drive that is a joint venture of Living the Dream Incorporated and Topeka Public Schools. And for the second year in a row, McCarter Elementary has more than led the way as it relates to collecting food items. Last year, they collected in excess of 3,300, and I met with Mrs. Cooney in December to see if they were going to participate this year, but she said, but I don't think we'll do as good as we did last year. Well, she was right in one respect, because McCarter Elementary this year collected 33,223 food items. But above that, this year, in the 5 years, and it keeps going up each year, a total of 5,857 food items were collected. The total will be divided between the food pantry at Washington University and also the Topeka Public Schools pantry there at Quinn Heights. So, on behalf of Living the Dream at Topeka Public Schools, I'd like to present to Ms. Cooney, or return to Ms. Cooney, the traveling plaque as well. I'll be delivering that next week. I asked there's a picture of the plaque. And so they will be getting that back again on Tuesday.
Thank you, Reverend Williams. And we're going to pull up that certificate for Ms. Cooney. Turn it over to the board to ask any questions of Ms. Cooney about how is she doing this. It's pretty amazing, even in a pandemic. The certificate says that we are honoring McCarter Elementary in appreciation of participating in the 5th annual Living the Dream, Inc. And Topeka Public Schools Dr. Martin Luther King Food Drive. As we take that on off the screen, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Munoz.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson. Any questions from my colleagues here for Mrs. Cooney? Well, first off, while we're waiting for others to think of any questions, tell us, how are you able to keep up this momentum that you've been having here for the last couple of years?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to begin with. Ainsley went to McCarter, and we always do look for a social project or something so that we can, give students the opportunity to get back to the community. So we really appreciate that. And really, other than that, I think it's just like what Dr. Anderson said, we just have really good teamwork. Last year, my counselors had the idea to divide the students into teams. So it wasn't just like all of kindergarten and all of first grade competing against each other, or boys against girls. So we usually have 3 teams, red, blue, and green, and somebody from each track, all K through 5 on each team. And donuts this year were the magic touch. They just motivated the children, and it was fun to see all the different food items that were brought in, things that I've never tried. I was just counting. I'm like, looky there, there's another one of these. So the kids just really got motivated. And then we have a graph on the Promethean board as you walk in, so they get to see their totals rising. And it's just, friendly, fun competition. And we try to reiterate that they're helping out their community. So.
Well, that is so awesome. And donuts would do it for me. So yeah, that's so great. Other questions for Ms. Cooney about this project? Certainly a great and rewarding cause. Okay, seeing none. Thank you again for this recognition. Send our congratulations to yourself, to staff, and the kids as well, the students, and our thanks for supporting this worthy cause.
Ainsley, it's great to see you in education. Come back, give me a ring when you graduate, okay? All right. Good to see all of our young leaders too.
Ms. Cooney, before leaving, I think Ms. Bowley had a quick comment or question. I saw your hand, I think, on the very edge of that. And first, Ainsley and Ryan, if you have yet to be interviewed by Dr. New, have you been interviewed by Human Resources yet? Looks like you have. And so, I always we give a contract 4 years early. So you already know that you would be coming back to Topeka Public Schools. You already know the salary, at least 4 years prior. It can only go up from there. And you already know even the school potentially that you want to go to and that you're placed there. So just wanted to make sure that has occurred for both of you. That's exciting. Boy, Miss Kimsey and Miss Dixon, you guys are on it. I'm going to turn it over to Miss Bowley for the last comment for Miss Cooney.
Well, first, it's good to see Reverend Williams' face on the screen. Always good to see our good friend. And I wanted to tell Mrs. Cooney, please tell your students thank you so much for caring so much about their community and collecting so much food when maybe some of your families even needed that food. But they did so much they came out and helped support it.
Some of our boxes have walked out of the door already. With permission, of course, but we've already started handing that back out, like with the long weekend and things like this. My counselor came to me, said we had a family in need. I said, load up a box. It'll just save them a trip. So I'll definitely share that. Thank you, Ms. Bowley.
All right, with that does conclude our highlights. And as Ms. Bowley said, want to echo a thanks to Reverend Williams, who has continued to do this every year. And because of him, countless numbers of families are being fed across Topeka. Thank you, Reverend Williams. And thank you, Ms. Cooney and team and everyone else that participated this year in collecting food for our families in the community. All right, with that, I'm going to turn it back on over to Mr. Munoz. That does conclude our highlights.
Okay, thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is public comments. I do believe we have one individual who is going to be speaking here. Mr. Gardner, are you here with us?
Yes, President Munoz, I am. How are you?
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, let me read for you just before you speak here a little deal I have here just as a forward and to before you speak. And here it is. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to address the board. We ask that your remarks to the board be respectful. If you have a complaint against a specific employee, we ask that you submit your written complaint to the superintendent. If the complaint is against the superintendent, please address your written complaint to either myself or to board president or to the clerk of the board. And again, as a reminder, you have 3 minutes.
I understand. Thank you. Board President Munoz, Vice President Bali, and esteemed members of the board, good evening. My name is Matthew Gardner. I live at 4840 Northwest Fielding Place, Apartment 2 in Topeka, Kansas. I am a substitute teacher operating under a teal license, currently assigned to Robinson Middle School. And as a history and secondary education major at Washburn University, I jumped at the opportunity to help my future coworkers. And now that opportunity is being taken away from me. Under the Teal Directorate, I'm allowed to be in a certain classroom no more than X number of days. I would love to tell you what that number is for the week, the month, or even the school year, but it seems that no one I talk to can give me the answer that anyone else has. In my short time in room 134 at Robinson, I've not only saved educators and staff countless hours of covering classes during their lunches and planning periods, but I've also helped students. Students that were ineligible to play sports have raised their grades, troublemakers have turned into allies, and students that were glued to their devices the minute they saw me are now interacting in class. I've achieved this through my love of teaching. Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays at Robinson are the best days of my week, and there's nowhere I would rather be than in that classroom educating young minds about world history from 7:30 to 3:30. As students leave after each class, I remind them that my passion is at their disposal, and not just for things related to social studies, but for any class that they may be having difficulty in. Dr. Bonebrake, as this is my first time being in this room as more than an observer of these proceedings, I hope it's okay to briefly acknowledge your TPS board member biography page. But first, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. I really hope your name is the reason you decided to pursue medicine. Second, history is all about research and citations, and I would be a terrible historian if I didn't do some research before being here tonight. And Dr. Bonebrake, your biography page says, Dr. Bonebrake brings a unique perspective to Topeka Public Schools, drawing on parallels between medicine and education, which requires examining causes in order to discover long-term solutions. We know what the cause is. A teacher shortage caused the Teal Directorate to be put into motion, and a small but valuable part of that long-term solution is me. The students that you all loyally serve now have an individual who not only is willing and able, but passionate about teaching, and in a field that they are currently studying at a collegiate level. They're in danger of losing this consistency of an educator that not only cares about the content they learn, but about the students themselves, all because some arbitrary piece of paper differentiates me from a never-ending cycle of stressed out teachers and, in the case of New Mexico, National Guardsmen. This stack of papers that I have here is evidence. There's 80 plus students that in their free time that admire me so much wrote letters to all of you that I said that I would address to you. I'm not going to read them because that would take way more than 3 minutes. But I have thoroughly enjoyed my time at Robinson Middle School, and I would love to continue teaching there. And if there's anything that you guys can do, I would greatly appreciate it. These students are begging to let me teach them the rest of the year, and on behalf of them that I'm here tonight. I appreciate your time and thank you for all that you do for the district. And the Substitute Services Office has my contact information if any of you would like to discuss this further, because education is my priority.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Gardner, for speaking with us today.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to the next agenda item is a disposition by consent. Is there a motion for business by consent?
Mr. President, I move the board approve the items of business by consent as presented and authorize the board president or superintendent to sign the special projects and purchasing contracts for and on behalf of the board.
Thank you, Ms. Bowley. So a motion has been made by Ms. Bowley. Is there a second? Okay, second by Mr. Tatum. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, we'll go ahead and move to a vote.
The vote is open.
And I see we have a couple of thumbs up. Mr. Tatum with a thumbs up. Anybody else?
And the vote is unanimous.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gowan. All right, moving on to the next item on the agenda is a superintendent's report.
Thank you. First of all, under superintendent's update, under that consent agenda that you just approved as an update, our new school board attorney who will be starting in about a month, Miss Donna Whiteman, who was formerly with Kansas Association for School Board. I think she is on, and we want to say welcome, Miss Whiteman, and joining us. We're looking forward to seeing you next week on Tuesday as you begin your transition.
Thank you very much, Dr. Anderson, and thank the board for the opportunity. I look forward to it. It's been an exciting board meeting so far, hearing from students and all the excellence that's being achieved. So I'll be happy to join the family and the team.
Yes, ma'am, and we're happy to have you. As many of you may know, Miss Lori Cope has been promoted to back to Kansas Association for School Board in an executive director role, and we are so excited for her as well. So as one transitions on and Miss Cope stays through this first few weeks of transition, Miss Whiteman will begin on Tuesday. All right, with that, we'll go ahead and get started with our other updates. We do want to remind our board, we always give a little COVID update. We're going to give you a little snapshot of that, of what the COVID numbers look like in Topeka at this time. So as we prepare to start, we're going to go ahead and pull that on up. We do want to say it's an all-time low. We know that the Shawnee County is at less than high, but our actual rating, as we kind of go down to that, so you can see what our rating is, and we might have to navigate to our webpage. We now, as of this last couple of weeks, have 14 staff, which is 0.6%, and 68 students, which is 0.5%. That's a very large drop from previously. We had 19 staff, but we had over 100 students previously. And then previous to that, the numbers were much higher. So we're excited about the new numbers, and they are on our website for anyone that would like to take a look at that. As we move from that, we also this evening have Dr. Kipp on with us to talk about boundary adjustments related to Stout. I'll turn it over to Dr. Kipp. We're going to make sure he's off mute. Mr. Gowan, I think he's trying to unmute and he's unable to do that.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gowan. Good evening, everyone. Mr. Gowan, if you could share the boundary proposal, that would be wonderful. And maybe zoom in maybe to 90% or somewhere in that region. Okay, that'll work. So yeah, as you as the board decided to go ahead and proceed with the closure of Stout, we have to discuss the closure of the boundaries of Stout. That does leave a hole kind of in the center of our city in terms of elementary boundary areas. This will be the fifth boundary modification school closure that I've been involved with. And this one touches quite a few other surrounding boundary areas. So we're just going to break this down piece by piece. The black outline is what you see as the current Stout boundary. So the surrounding districts essentially need to absorb that area. So what I've proposed here is almost an equal splitting of the boundary of Stout. I'll first start with what I like to call the northern part of Stout. That is going to be absorbed by Randolph. That is essentially the area really north of 21st Street in the Chesney Park area and kind of around Washburn University. And then on the western side of Stout, we have Whitson expanding to the east somewhat. And then right below that, Jardine will expand slightly to the north. And finally, Highland Park Central will expand westerly to account for that last chunk of Stout boundary. Now, I did highlight on this graphic the number of students that school would receive. And so we factored all those into next year's projections. And, kind of serendipitously, the decline in enrollment has allowed for some of those absorptions in such a way that we're not overburdening a particular school, and also splitting it across these multiple districts helps kind of load balance the numbers across those elementaries. So that is it in a nutshell. What my proposal is, if you want to discuss it further, or I'd be more than happy to field any questions or further elaboration on some of these changes.
Other questions from our board?
This is Bonebreak. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Dr. Bonebreak.
Yeah, I thought almost half the students were bussed in, which is one of the reasons we were closing it, not the major one, of course, but then that the students are going to be going to Jardine since they had room for that expansion.
That is correct. We did offer that as an option. The other options were, hey, if you want to return to your home school, some kids that lived in the Meadows area were bussed in, like you said, to Stout. Some of them opted not to go the Jardine route, frankly, because it's going from a very small school to a very large school. So we wanted to honor those parental choices of going to perhaps a smaller school like Lowman Hill or Randolph versus Jardine. So so far we've done a survey for all the Stout parents to get kind of their choices and what they would like to do in terms for next year. And we've been able to fulfill every first choice of Stout parents thus far.
Makes sense.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Schumacher, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just didn't know if Dr. Kipp, and I think it probably has to do with school size. On the map where you look, where the chunk going west to Randolph, it does seem like from a geographic point of view that chunk, at least in Chesney Park, may be better suited at Williams, just as far as, quote unquote neighborhood school. But I'm guessing that the size of the two schools has something to do with that. Can you elaborate on that, Dr. Kipp?
Absolutely. That's a good point. One of the things that, I always, since this is kind of my fifth go around, is always looking through the lens of equity and racial balancing. Randolph is not really what you would call a predominantly school of color. So that easterly expansion of Randolph actually will enrich that particular school with more students of color versus, like you mentioned, expanding Williams to the west. So that was one of my rationales for moving Randolph in that direction.
And I assume, and I think you kind of addressed, as far as the numbers for like Randolph or Whitson, as far as the schools, that's not too much of a burden on
No, sir.
those other schools versus like Jardine, who has that big school. We, when it's discussed previously, it was felt like they could absorb it. But it seems like these other two can as well.
Absolutely. And
other
really,
three,
yeah, the boundary change really is more applicable to new people moving into the area, not necessarily just these current Stout families. So you got to think forward thinking in terms of, you got a brand new family moves into the northernly part of Stout. Well, what school are they going to be able to go to? And so that's one little caveat to kind of keep in mind.
Thank you.
So in terms of numbers, Dr. Kipp, we're talking currently, and currently approximately 40 or so students will be going to Jardine, Dr. Shoemaker. If you remember, out of the 160 or so students, approximately 60 were being bused in, so now you're talking about 100 left. And so I think each school has approximately 15 or so students that are being sprinkled amongst the schools. Am I correct, Dr. Kipp? 15 to 20 students sprinkled amongst the different schools based on the parents' first choice?
Yeah, it actually, when we did the survey, I was surprised how nice it balanced out, these parental choices. I mean, they were all over a variety of elementaries, all the way up to State Street and things like that, for a variety of reasons, whether it be daycare or transportation. We just wanted to accommodate these families that were being displaced.
And so with that number, you should know, again, this map means for next year when people enroll new, this gives him some structure about what school do they go to. But we also let families, make a request if they have a reason for a request for another building. But this is for next year. Again, Stout being a very small footprint, assuming that you have the same very small number of people that will have children in that particular section. For those, small number of people, it gives him some direction. But moving forward, you have 15 to 20 at the various schools, and then Jardine would take the rest. We did email all the Stout families to say if they don't make a first choice or any choice, then Jardine is the school for next year they would attend.
Are there other questions while we're discussing this? One question I have, Dr. Kipp, is the impact of transportation. I think we heard from some parents that they were worried about that, and with parents who live in the Stout, right, close to Stout, having to go somewhere else. Have you thought through, and what are the implications as far as transportation?
That's a very good point. Once the board approves these recommended boundaries or any kind of modifications, then we can determine, what is the distance from that child's home in this new boundary to the school. And given that radius, I think we're set right now at 1.75 miles with the pandemic distance. Then they would be eligible if they're over that distance. So it really depends a lot on where the students live. Certainly that's, Stout being juxtaposed against Jardine certainly would help, some of that distance requirement. But I'd say it's a little too early to speculate exactly. But, we definitely try to work with the families as best we can and try to come up with some creative solutions because I know transportation can be a barrier oftentimes.
So Dr. Kipp, is it fair to say that the reason you picked the various bordering is because if everybody went to Jardine, many of them would be at that 2 mile radius potentially, but you've picked bordering areas to Stout so that some would still be within a distance that may well be less than a busing distance because they're bordering that area already. Is that fair to say, as opposed to if everyone was sent to Jardine at one time?
Correct. Yeah, I think, the dispersion amongst all the elementaries also helps the dispersion of transportation burden. I don't know if that really makes sense, but the routes, and they'll be running these routes this summer, so we'll have an idea of the load and how many buses it will take and things of that nature. But I don't know if I really answered your question, but it is something we're definitely looking at.
Other questions from board members? Ms. Foley?
As I look at that map, it looks like we've added a lot of territory to Williams. Is that correct?
No, that's actually Highland Park Central. I slid the border over a little bit. Now keep in mind, the majority of that is the golf course. So there's no kids living in that, that blue area is Highland Park Central. I didn't touch Williams attendance area. HPC just seemed like a natural movement over to Washburn or Burlingame, you know. So yeah, it's actually capturing the Burnett Center in that area and also the Topeka Country Club.
So is Williams not in their own district? I guess I'm confused with the purple and the arrow and.
So Dr. Kipp, can you speak to the colors and just restate where these borders are by color as clearly as you can, sir?
Yes, Williams is, yeah, technically many years back in 1995, it was placed actually in the Meadows area. So Williams doesn't exist actually in their own attendance area. That purple is the Williams zone. And then kind of that right next to that would be the proposed Randolph, that Chesney Park. And then as we move down, Highland Park Central would be that kind of blue area. And then
and we're going to stop for just a moment.
Okay.
Can you go back with the cursor over the purple area so that I'm following along with Ms. Bowley and all board members? So that where that cursor is, you're saying that is all, what area is that, Dr. Kipp?
That's the Williams Magnet area.
Okay. And that area is not getting any Stout students. Is that correct?
Correct. Unless they actually originally lived there and wanted to return, we honor that. But yeah, that
Thank you.
That boundary has not been touched.
Thank you. And remember, 60 students were being bused from out of the area, so they potentially could be returning. All right. So then you were at a blue area. Is that where you were at next, Dr. Kipp?
Yes, ma'am. That black kind of border right there where Mr. Gowan's kind of wiggling around, that area is what would be annexed to the Highland Park Central, the HPC area. And again, it's really only 18 students that physically live in that whole area.
Thank you. And then we're going to go to the next area. Just for the viewers, I love when the questions come in because there are probably other people asking this same question with these colors. Where would you like the cursor to go next, sir? What color box do you want?
Let's look at where that 9 is, Mr. Gowan. There we go. That little boundary, it's kind of jogs around, but whenever you're doing boundary changes, you want to do it along natural borders.
And it's hard to see where you are, Mr. Gowan. I'm sure are you in the light green, Mr. Gowan, in that dark green area?
Yep, he's in the light green.
Thank you.
And that is, that border right there is the Shunga Creek. And so right north of that, the darker green, that would be the Whitson area, potentially. And then immediately north of that, you're crossing 21st Street into
And Dr. Kipp, before you go on that dark green area, how many students would potentially be impacted?
That would be 53 that live in that area.
Okay.
Now,
and Whitson, did they have a decline in enrollment, Dr. Kipp, to help them maintain their teacher population and to continue to balance?
Absolutely. They did have they've been declining over the past couple of years. Actually, some of those 53 kids in that little square, that dark green square, have opted for Jardine. So, you know, that would be kind of, and of course, Jardine can accommodate all of Stout if they wanted to, but that kind of summarizes that little chunk there.
And those that requested Jardine are being allowed to go to Jardine. So 53 are eligible, and out of that 53, some will go to Jardine. So it'll be less than 53. All right, we're going to go to the next area.
The next area is kind of what I like to call Northern Stout. And that would be an annex of Randolph. Randolph would expand to accommodate Washburn University, which there's no children that live on the campus.
And is that this light purple for those that might not be able to see the white cursor on that? Is that where you're at, Dr. Kipp?
Yeah, It depends on your, I kind of consider it a light pink, but.
Okay, so the light pink is where you like for them to be, okay?
Yes, ma'am. And then that 53 that live in that area, Chesney Park, I don't know if you can read that part there. Those children, again, these are just raw numbers of kids that live in this area. It doesn't account for transfers or requests, for instance, to go to Jardine.
And has Randolph been declining in enrollment, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Over the last 2 to 3 years, sir?
The last 2 years, yeah.
So are there other areas you want us, as we now look at this box and see where Stout is and what's bordering, are there other questions for our board members?
Others, are there questions? If you so, raise your hand here so I can acknowledge you. One of my questions, Dr. Kipp, is if you could sort of help me understand your rationale where those 18 who are in the Quinton Heights area, you think are better suited to move into Highland Park Central as opposed to Jardine. What is your thinking there?
That was, you could do a number of different permutations. It just seemed natural to move that boundary over from a racial lens, to increase a little bit more diversity for Highland Park Central. Whenever you have easterly, westerly movement, there tends to be a correlation of more students of color and kind of socioeconomic diversity. So that was my rationale of just moving that one westerly. But yeah, it could have jogged up, and we could have made Jardine certainly a part of that as well.
Mr. Munoz, here's the question for you, because this is just discussion. We're going to come back next time and ask for action. Would you like to see a map with Jardine, because we're talking less than 20 students, as a possibility, which would not include then HPC? That is certainly an option because they're an equal distance. Am I correct, Dr. Kipp, for the most part?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's I don't know, my colleagues, how you feel about that. If you feel okay with this was just a question. I'd love to hear some input from others. What are you thinking? Is everybody on board with this for the most part?
Yes, Mr. Munoz, I'm completely on board. Dr. Kipp, like he said, this is his fifth rodeo here. And so he certainly is quite adept at rearranging. And I also really like how the diversity increases at Randolph, which is my neighborhood school. So I love the fact that there's going to be more kids of color at Randolph. So that's good that you are thinking about that as well.
Yeah, Mr. Tatum.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dr. Kipp, from spending time with you, I know that you have done a very diligent job of looking at all of the balance numbers and trying to make sure to kind of equalize things. And I appreciate the presentation tonight. I think concerned is probably too strong of a term, but the transportation issue does come up in my mind. Are we going to is the district going to make the effort to get the information out to the parents and the families of those impacted so that they know what the transportation issues are going to look like well ahead of time so that they can make informed decisions?
I might
and
divert that question to Mr. Robbins if
yeah. And Dr. Kipp, can you just remind everyone when someone registers, because new board members wouldn't know what does that look like. So when someone registers and they qualify for transportation, what happens? And when someone registers for school.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now that all of our registrations are online, we really go by their address, their home address. And so my team evaluates what their home school would be. And the goal is, to try to get people in their home school because of, engagement and connection and after school programs, things like that. However, we do realize that there are reasons for transfers, magnet schools, dual language programs, things like that. So once a family registers, we identify what boundary they would be in. We send that information over to the transportation company, and then they start programming that into the routing system to see the most efficient and pragmatic way of picking those kids up.
And so,
go ahead.
No, go right on ahead. Mhm.
I was just going to say, in terms of next year's transportation expectations, I think we're still discussing that as a leadership team. Mr. Robbins has, addressed some of those issues, and I don't know if he wants to speak to some of those concerns.
Thank you, Dr. Kipp. And so here's what will happen with this. Once you vote on a map and the boundary, then we'll send that boundary to all the current Stout families because we know who they are. Many of them have already selected to go elsewhere. And we'll share based on where you live. Here's this, if you were enrolling in the future years, here's where your homeschool would be. If you would like to change your mind, here's the homeschool. And then here's how transportation is provided. So that's what that would look like as we roll this out. That would be the next step once a map is voted on. I would also suggest that perhaps for the next meeting as well, in addition to the map that you currently have, to give you an opportunity to see the adjustment. When this is over, this is just discussion. I encourage for a conversation directly with Dr. Kipp. Something may come up after this. You may think of some other kinds of questions. And if you do ask some questions that lead to an alternative view, then I'll connect with both president and vice president in our regular meeting, and we may well have a second map. Mr. Munoz, like we do with the calendar, where we say here's one map, which might be the recommendation, but here's another one that could just as equally be the recommendation.
Dr. I actually, after listening to Dr. Kipp, I do agree with his rationale. I think I'm on board with that. So just to put that out there. So.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Munoz. So we're going to open this up to questions over the next couple of weeks as well for Dr. Kipp. And if enough comes up that leads to some adjustment, the president and vice president will make a decision on that, and we may well bring a second alternative. But this is the alternative that gives racial balance and good mix moving forward. Other questions for us on boundaries? Well, thank goodness Dr. Kipp has done this for five different times. It gives us a level of assurance, and it ensures that no school is overwhelmed, but also helps balance out some of the schools that have been losing enrollment and staffing as a result. So we're excited about this next step. Keep in mind that current Stout families can go wherever they choose. Okay, so they're putting in requests. They may or may not be going to whatever on that boundary map because we agreed to honor their as close as we could to their first request, and all first requests so far have been honored. We have a second item. Mr. Munoz, may I proceed with that next item?
Yes, please do.
The next item on the agenda are the Code of Ethics Board expectations. As we go to the board expectations, and Mr. Munoz, I'm going to come back at the end because I want to leave you enough time for this. At the end, under Superintendent's Update, we have a Monday Mental Health Day. So under Superintendent's Update, if we have time, I'll remind people what that is. But we'll divert the rest of the time at this point to the first three items on your draft Code of Ethics. I'll be turning it over to either Ms. Boley or Mr. Munoz to just read the do and the don't, and then to open it up for conversation of why you want individuals to proceed in one way or the next. Just a reminder for the board, in the past, the last board had a Code of Ethics that they really followed by. This board, the majority of board members have been with us for less than 3 years, and so a very clear observable action is kind of put in statement by the president and vice president. So that there's a code by which you continue to follow. The board president and vice president, if I say this wrong, Mr. Munoz, let me know. Mr. Munoz expressed a desire for ongoing professional development through your new school board attorney. And so the board president and vice president, at this point, with these 10 items or so that are on this list, 2 or 3 will be addressed at every meeting or every other meeting. And then by the time you get to the summer for your retreat, all 10 of those would have been covered in depth. But this allows you to go through the first 3 at this meeting. Did I say that properly?
Yeah, you did. I mean, it's sort of an expectation and understanding that our staff, teachers go through regular professional development. And it just makes sense that we should also, and
understand our role and how to be the best board members that we can. And that involves a lot of learning and studying what it means to be good board members. So in that vein, I'll go ahead and read the first one on this do's and don'ts, discuss it and see if we all think that that sounds good to us and explore those. First one is, do confine your actions to policymaking, planning, and appraisal. Don't become involved in the administration, organization, or implementation of the policies and goals. The board has a macro view. Professional educators deal with the micro day-to-day operations of the district. Individual board members should direct requests and or questions for district staff, including reports and agenda items, to the president or vice president, and they'll discuss it with administration and or with full board. But and I think, 2 years in, I still struggle with making sure that I don't get pulled in to, when I have a parent or someone who has a particular concern, but instead making sure that we refer it to our Dr. Anderson and for her to be able to have that taken care of and addressed. Part of it for me is, I think, how we see individuals and elected officials respond and in the public is to sort of really be advocates on specific items or agendas. And I think we see that, and we maybe sense either exteriorly we feel that pressure to respond in that same way, behave in that same way, or we have things that we're really passionate about. And I think as I spend time as a board member, I really understand that that us together as a board is how we manage or the school board through policy. That's how we are able to affect change, and any issues really need to go through our superintendent. But anything that sort of stands out to you or questions you have about this? Maybe there's some things that you have questions about, you want to learn more about. And again, remember that we have our attorney who in the next couple of months will be going on. We're doing more professional training with us. I'll go ahead and move on with the second one, which is, do understand that your responsibility is to work as a board to see that the schools are run well. Don't think our role is to be involved in day-to-day training, running of the schools. That is the administrator's job. Questions regarding the day-to-day operations of the district or communication to staff through email or other means by individual board members should be directed to or sent through the superintendent or board president for response. And I'll just read the third one, and then we can just sort of have a discussion and sort of delve into this, these 3 points. And the last one is, do understand that only the full board has the right to make decisions. Don't make personal promises or take any private action which may compromise the board. So having gone through those 3, I'd love to be able to open it up to all of our members to sort of, if there are questions that you have or different take as you understand it, but let me give a quick 15 seconds and have others chime in.
To get your conversation started, I have a question, and these are hypotheticals that have actually come up. So for the board, if you have a request or a directive, it could be sending something to the legislature. It could be contacting, someone or asking Dr. Kipp to pull a report about boundaries or asking someone to pull salaries. In that case, based on the code of ethics, they would instead send that to you. Am I correct, Mr. Munoz? Or to me directly? Those are the only, is that correct?
Yeah, I think there are 7 of us, and I think we really have to be wary of making sure we run everything through. If there are any requests, any questions through, I'm happy to pass that on to you, Dr. Anderson, or through myself or Ms. Bowley.
So that means all requests will go to the board president, and if all of you have requests about different items, or to me, if it's something simple. I'll use a good example if I can, Ms. Schmidt. Ms. Schmidt said, make sure the public knows that you can come in person. Public, if you're listening, you can come in person. And it was great because you sent it to me, so I could immediately change the room makeup to make sure that's a really clear message, and put information and advertisement. But it was sent to me. It may have been copied to the clerk or something like that, or someone else, but it was sent to me as just a direct item. If there's something dicey and I can't really, I'm not sure if I should handle it or if it speaks for the entire board, then I'd be sending it back to the board president. At least that's the way that I understand that code of ethics.
So what are your thoughts or what's resonating for you as we read these 3 points here, and maybe how it might, again, the purpose before this is try to be a high functioning board. And I think that means having a clear understanding of our role and the sort of, as this document says, the do's and don'ts.
Sue has her hand up.
Sue, okay, I'm glad. Go ahead.
So I think all of us feel that we are elected by our constituents, and that somehow or another there should be some accountability to the people that have elected us. And so I think that's a really hard and situation for a school board to be able to actually address the people who contact us. And so I was wondering, in my mind over the last 2 years, I really want to get those emails. So I have an idea of what the voice is out there. And then that I can take that back to some of the things that I want to discuss with my superintendent or the board president, and it may help shape some of the directions that I might want to approach with the superintendent, just knowing those. So I think we all want to hear from our constituents, but it doesn't necessarily mean we can follow through with that because we are a school board. We're not a politician in the state house. And so I think that's a really hard, place where we are as a board.
Did we send our new members that instruction sheet on how to answer telephone calls and emails?
I believe I think in our first board meeting, Ms. Cope had some documents and we sent that out to the board and we went over that. It was more of a larger view in general about the board's role, to just give you some things about things like emails. You can't send everybody emails and some of those legal parameters. I believe we did do that, Dr. Bonebreak, at their very first meeting. So in follow-up, this is more of the granular step, I believe, from board president and vice president.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to comment that I think it's an excellent idea for ongoing professional development for the board, just like we do with our staff. And also because we have 3 new board members and the 4 veterans, right? We're just a little over 2 years in. And so, yeah, and there's just always more to learn. So I really like this idea and I look forward to learning more. Thank you.
So I just want to get some clarification, around this first one. The board has a macro view. Professional individual board members should direct requests and or questions for district staff, including reports and agenda items, to the president or vice president, and they will discuss it with the administration. So are you telling me that according to this draft code of ethics that we shouldn't be reaching out to Dr. Anderson specifically? Or I know some of us have had meetings with different administrative staff. We have to come to you and ask for permission to do that. To me, this just feels like a little bit micromanaging. I know big picture where we're trying to go, but I feel like it micromanages just a little bit, and we're really unempowering our board members by saying, hey, you've got to go to 2, and then that puts a lot of pressure on you guys, so if something happens and we're waiting for a response from the one person that we're allowed to message, I just think we might want to restructure that a little.
Yeah, we need to finesse the language. Yeah, and I think the intent is not that it only has to come through me. I think the intent is just to make sure that we're messaging through, not with a principal or with whoever it might be, but directly with Dr. Anderson. So I think you're right. I mean, if the intent isn't that I get to say so, I get to say what it doesn't. The intent is for us to be clear about when there are issues that need to be addressed, it should go through our only employee, which is Dr. Anderson. So yeah, I think we're happy to make any changes that say myself and or Dr. Anderson. So
Yeah, I could just think of several things,
Sure.
that I would just go directly to her about, if personnel things came, we were made aware of those or something happened, that I would just go straight to Dr. Anderson with those types of things.
and I
So
would have no problem with that. Yeah.
I just think we need to make sure that language is in there. Some people are very literal, and if it's written in black and white, we don't have her included in that, then.
No, it sounds great. Thank you. Others, as you look at these 3 points, what other things that you have questions about?
Mr. Munoz, would you like Ms. Cope to take notes on the document, and so she can play with the language based on what's being discussed by your board?
Sure. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Cope, for adjusting the language and redlining it so that when you send it, they can see what was changed.
Well, seeing no questions, I mean, as Dr. Anderson mentioned, my goal is to go through this eventually in totality so that we're all sort of on the same page. If there are things that we don't agree with or things we have questions about, that we explore that. And at the same time, as this is sort of my sense is that we'll focus on this development as a board for the next couple of months so that when we get to our retreat, which we'll be getting in touch with you to figure out what day that works for all of us. We're solid in terms of how we can function efficiently and effectively, and then get into where we are as a school district and figure out what do we need to be doing in order to sort of make some forward progress or continue that forward progress we're already making, but through policy. So.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. And for the retreat, what we can do to facilitate you picking a date, Ms. Wallace's team has prepared a document in which you can just pick which date. It has several options on it that we're offering for you. Weekend included, because the past board did that on Saturdays. In some cases they did that on a board meeting night. So there's several options there. And then it also asks you, are there particular topics you also want ongoing training, since Mr. Munoz asked for that ongoing training, so that way you can begin to list topics. And as Ms. Wallace's team sends that out to you on Monday, by the next board meeting, we will have some of that feedback, so you get a chance to talk a little bit about that.
Dr. Anderson, that's a good point. I have seen through trainings with KSB a self-evaluation for a board on what day is that similar to what you're talking about? Just areas where we want to learn more about financing or curriculum. Is that what you're?
Yes, and then that's on that document. What areas would you like to learn more about? In terms of self-evaluation, you did mention to me that you'd like to have the board self-evaluate, where they just literally as an evaluation document. So that's one of the conversations I'll have with Ms. Whiteman on Tuesday, given her very extensive background with training boards and other attorneys in other districts. And so that's one of the pieces that she'll be looking at as well. What tool might you want to use to do that? So we go over those results as well in the retreat.
That'd be great. Thank you.
You're welcome. And so look forward to that on Tuesday. And but we're going to talk about Monday. I'm excited about Monday, you all. So we're going to pull up the web page. And so on the web page, we're pulling it up for the purpose of parents who are at home watching. All right, so, and we trust this is our last board meeting online, knock on wood. So we are in Kansas, but trusting that we won't have much more snow 2 weeks from now. Keep in mind, for those that are listening, if you come to the board building, you can come inside the boardroom. There normally are tables, but half of the room, we'll remove the tables and put the chairs back so you can see all the chairs lined up. And that will ensure that you kind of know to come on in. We'd love to see you in there. So a couple of things. We do want to show that the Mental Health Resource Day, we're going to click on that particular link. And on that Mental Health Resource Day, well, instead of me doing the talking, Dr. Gray, your team did this webpage. I'm going to turn it over to you to share about this Mental Health Resource Day, which is Monday.
Thank you so much for that, Dr. Anderson. If you would click on the link there, that's right. Yes. So again, we're very excited. We have our Mental Health Day that's on Monday. And we're excited about the fact that we have collaborated with numerous partners to provide resources to families and to staff as well as students. So if you will scroll down a little bit there, you'll see some of the resources that are being provided for families on Monday. Again, we partner with Boys and Girls Club of Topeka, YWCA. They're going to be providing childcare at low cost to parents. Also, we have the Kansas Discovery Center, which will also be providing a family type environment for families who wish to attend the Discovery Center on Monday. They can get passes from the Shawnee County Library. They can obtain those passes by going to the Shawnee County Library and receiving those passes prior to Monday. And they will be able to come into the Discovery Center for free. So again, it's not babysitting. It's only, it's going to be an opportunity to explore the Discovery Center. Also, we have Genesis Health Clubs that has partnered with us. I believe it's the Southwest, and they're providing a 10-day pass and also some other key items for staff. We have Massage Envy, who's been a great partner. They are providing massages for the cost of $60, which is about $10 to $20 less than what they would normally do. And they're going to do that for the entire year. So we're excited about that. Also, if you scroll down a little bit more, we talked about the Shawnee County Library and Boys and Girls Club of Topeka. We also have, keep going down, we have Culver's. Culver's is offering for any TPS staff and families 25% off the entire bill. So again, you bring your employee ID or bring the discounted information, and that will be provided. And then also Family Service and Guidance is offering support to our staff, as well as support to students. They have the 7-Cup apps, which students could, at any time, 24/7, they can log into this app. And if they need mental health support, it will be provided. And lastly, we have New Direction, which is our EPA for the district, which is providing support for our families. So again, we're excited about the many resources that are being offered this day.
Thank you, Dr. Gray. We went by to talk about to the Massage Envy place to pay for a massage for one person with a 10% discount. And they said for 501, we're not charging you. So a counselor at Williams actually yesterday got a free massage from Massage Envy. So they're already jumping on board. So truly, we thank all of our community partners. Ms. Sharp is on Family Service and Guidance, the piece that they're giving. I know we kind of talked about it briefly. We're going to go ahead and just make sure you know and families know exactly what that is. And for the Discovery Center, I can't tell you how many paraprofessionals shared that they would love to go to the Discovery Center, but didn't necessarily want to, pay the cost or any of that. So now they're taking their kids with them to the Discovery Center for those that have new babies and children that are less than school age. And so just the mental health piece of wrapping all kinds of services around for family time, as well as just for relaxation opportunity, and then opportunities for our families in general with their kids. We thank everybody for jumping on board, and thank you, school board, for this. Mrs. Sharp, you want to give the updates on FSG, what Family Service and Guidance has rolled out and prepared for us?
Yes, ma'am. We've been working with Miss Jenny Watson at Family Service and Guidance Center, and their team quickly responded to our announcement to have the Mental Health Day on the 21st. They are going to partner with our communications department to advertise parenting classes for our families to access real world parenting and just the day-to-day life and how Family Service can provide some strategies for them to be able to successfully maybe parent during challenging times. And then they were so gracious to set up 20-minute sessions for our staff to be able to connect directly with their staff. So they've created links where our staff can go in and sign up for a free 20-minute session where they can just get some advice, bounce some ideas around, and then their staff will say, you know what, that sounds like maybe it's typical, think about handling it this way. Or they might say, you know what, let's schedule an appointment. Let's connect you with some community resources. So really thrilled that they have cleared the schedule for several of their staff members to specifically be available for Topeka Public Schools employees on Monday.
Thank you. And then the 7 Cups app, that's where students can text a number and get therapy services accessible, and someone will text them back. It's kind of like a crisis line for students that have a need. We put that in place. They put that in place for us some years ago, but they've created some new marketing around that to make sure young people know here is the text number for the 7 Cups app. So all of those activities, including the therapy sessions for our staff, are just phenomenal. Any questions about the Mental Health Day on Monday? I'm sorry, Mr. Munoz.
I was just going to say that I've heard from, and I'm sure my colleagues here have heard from a number of individuals who have just said that they're really grateful and thankful that we've made this opportunity available to them. And also I've seen others outside of our district who said, I wish my district would do that. So I'm really proud of the work that the opportunity we've created, acknowledge the tough 6-7 weeks we've had, and look forward to them coming back with energized.
Thank you, Mr. Munoz. In terms of Mental Health Day, that does conclude our report on the Mental Health Day. And as we put up the little ad there, we're going to continue to push that out just as reminders for people. In terms of Superintendent's update, I do want to remind everyone who might be listening, anytime there is a public address item that's shared, especially if it's one that hasn't come to me or Mr. Robbins, we look as soon as that public address comes in, we'll look into that and then return back to our board members. But there was an acronym shared tonight in that public address. That acronym is the KSDE's new, if you don't have 60 hours, here are the parameters upon which you can substitute. And that's that acronym that was referenced. And so again, in looking into those, we'll look at parameters, and we're bound by that. This is what allows people who are right outside of high school up through the 60 hours who might not quite have that yet, and allows them to sub in certain ways. Now, while we're bound to that, again, we will continue to look into that, and then we'll get back to the board members in terms of any updates on that particular matter. Mr. Munoz, that does conclude all of our items, sir.
All right, thank you very much. Moving on to the next item on the agenda is board member comments. We'll start with Dr. Bonebrake.
Okay. Well, my rant's going to start with the fact that education should not be political, but the public education system seems to be the enemy, constantly under attack, and it shouldn't be. There's a boatload of legislation being rammed through, and none of which relieves a teacher shortage, increases pay, increase days of instruction. It's increasing the teacher's work. The parental bill of rights, this micromanagement, vouchers, homeschool students participate in extracurricular activities in their public school of choice. It's just overwhelming. And at what point and by what means do teachers, administration, school boards speak up about the hostility of the political extremes? We make a decision on masks or vaccinations, we catch it from all sides. And my final part of my rant is the legislature is sort of granting $1 billion to an unknown business to entice the company to come with 4,000 employees. The way I figured, that's about $250,000 per employee. That'd pay for at least 4 teachers. or several days of added instruction to make up for the loss. I think we have $42 million from the COVID catch up, and we haven't figured out yet how to spend that, although we're working on it. Anyway, it's just frustrating to know that our public education system is under attack. The inefficiency, the micromanagement. So, and I saw Sue Boley on TV last night, and I hope she'll expound on this boatload of bills. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bonebrick. Dr. Schumacher.
Yes, thank you. You know, in my day-to-day, both professionally as a pediatrician and as a member of our board, you know, it does feel like I'm constantly under attack by by the people that we elect, and it is very disheartening. But I do, you know, I persist because of the students, and because like the three we heard from tonight, Ainsley, Ryan, and Aaliyah, you know, on our, you know, engage, prepare, and inspire. And I think that teachers that inspire generate future teachers that inspire. And I think, you know, we persist as the seven of us and all of us to support these kids because others won't. And so it was, you know, day to day as a pediatrician, I do it because of the kids and the interactions, and it's the same here. And it definitely makes it worthwhile. Even when I get off of this meeting and look at the news from the State House and get more disheartened. I think that it's going to be even more important for us to continue to generate future leaders and future teachers, but also find other ways to incorporate teachers. And you know, I appreciate the comments that were made at the meeting today and trying to find other ways to incorporate transitions to teachers, you know, maybe through some of the opportunities that were created with the TEAL program. So I'm hopeful and I will continue to persist.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tatum.
Thank you, Mr. President. I will keep my comments short and sweet tonight. I just really want to say, the more I think about it, the more this mental health day really just seems like a fantastic idea. The information that Dr. Gray and his team put together for the website is outstanding. I certainly do hope that everyone in the district can enjoy this extra day. And Dr. Anderson, you were very instrumental in making this come together. So thank you for that. I know that the students are definitely going to appreciate it, but I think even more our teachers and staff are also going to appreciate having this opportunity with some extra perks added in. So just wanted to thank everybody for the work that they do for the students of our district. And I hope everybody has a great mental health day off. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Schmidt.
Yeah, I just have three quick things. First, I have to kind of echo what Mr. Tatum said. Dr. Anderson, you and your team went above and beyond with this mental health day, making sure not only that parents had childcare opportunities, but that there were opportunities to have people tend to their mental health, both physically and mentally. So kudos to you guys. That was just way more than I ever imagined. Mental health is very important, and prior to the pandemic, it's not something that we so readily talked about. So if we look at positives that COVID has brought us, it is that we acknowledge that mental health is very important. I believe people were created to be relational. And we thrive on routine, and COVID has challenged both of those things for us. So it is very important that we address those. And finally, Dr. Anderson said it well when she said that we are open to the public and people can come sit. I know I've had a few people reach out to me and ask, and so that is why I went directly to her to say, hey, being the new person, just wanted to see how that works and, you know, what was available. We do serve at the will of the people who elected us, and I just want to make sure that those people understand they are more than welcome to come have a seat in the boardroom and listen to what's happening and have a voice. And if they're more comfortable doing that at home, they're welcome to join that way as well. So with that, everyone have a wonderful, wonderful Mental Health Day on Monday. Thank you.
Ms. Stewart Campbell.
Hi, so my comments are in the same field as Dr. Bonebreak's. And it's we all need to be aware of some bills that some members of our Kansas legislature are hoping to pass. Specifically, I'm talking about Senate Bills 363 and 393. And just today, they held a hearing on these bills, and I'm really curious what was discussed. So these bills, in short, for those who don't know, these bills in short are requiring that all school districts have a parent transparency portal, requiring school districts to provide information on learning materials and activities in each school, even requiring that the name of the company that produces the test be provided on this portal. So I read the bills. I went to the legislature and I typed in the bills, and I'm going to quote for you some of the language from the bill, just so we're all aware. Okay, these are direct quotes. The parent may take action when they feel that the quality or content of a child's education does not align with the values and expectations the parent expects and deserves. Okay, another one, the right to request, access, and inspect all curriculum. Another one, the right to challenge the educational benefit of any book that can result in the removal of the book. I am both a parent and a teacher. And as a parent, I like to know what my kids are learning, but I trust the school to decide on the curriculum as that is their expertise. As a teacher, the mere thought of like parent A thinking that it's great that I'm teaching, for example, To Kill a Mockingbird, but parent B thinks that it's terrible, and then parent B has the right to challenge that, it's very concerning. So I did submit some testimony to the Senate Education Committee in opposition. And in very short summary, I stated that these bills, if passed, would impose an undue burden on administrators and teaching staff, as well as contradict the legislative positions that were mutually created by the 5 Shawnee County public school districts, where we support public management under our local boards of education. So we just have to stay vigilant and speak up when we see misguided legislation coming down the pike. And TPS, we have an excellent lobbyist with Ms. Crow, and I know she's working hard on our behalf. And that's what I got. Yeah, have a great 4-day weekend.
Here, here, you did good.
Ms. Boley.
I guess I should state that I have been up at the Capitol building, keeping track of the bills, and that most of them are going to pass out of their Senate and House committees. And so now it's very important for our constituents in the district, our teachers, our administrators, everyone, to be contacting their representatives and ask them to vote no if you have concerns about those bills. We don't have concerns about parent transparency. And as you know, as a Topeka Public School Board member, parents are able to access anything that they need to know what their students are being taught. And we always have somebody at our phone to answer that. So I don't want us to state that we're against parent transparency, because we already have it in place. The bills make us sound like we're trying to hide things, and we're not. In Topeka Public Schools, we are always open for our parents to see whatever they would like. And we have procedures if you have concerns about curriculum that we address and try to work through with you. So I'll move on to some better things. I wanted to wish Mrs. Cope the best of luck in her new job and welcome in Mrs. Whitman. We're excited about the changes for both of them. And we are sad to see Mrs. Cope go, but we're lucky to have Mrs. Whitman coming in. So there's going to be a nice change. In our personnel committee meeting, we talked about how many less absences we now have. We have gone through a horrible time, a lot of absences, and we are getting back on track again. And this is a good thing because we will have people who are hired in our district to assist children in their educational catch-up or expansion on their education will now be back in their positions to do exactly what they need to do. So we're very excited about that. In our intergovernmental cooperative council, all the districts in the area are on the council, and we came together and talked about mental health for our students and what this pandemic may be doing in the future. And one of the things that the Family Service Guidance Center suggested is making sure that we get out that 7 cups, particularly for our older students. It is manned 24 hours a day. So let's be sure that our students know that, our parents know that, so that children who need to reach out, young people who need to reach out are able to do that and get help. I went to the Topeka West Theater production of Schoolhouse Rock Live, and it was just such a joyful time to see something so fun and to see such a large student participation. It was just joyful to see students with so much talent bringing so much happiness to their audience. And then at the same time, Coach Bloomquist asked that all of his basketball team members come to see the production because he feels like the production is just like a basketball team. Everybody's being coached, everybody has their positions, everybody needs to follow through. And so many of his members came to support the other members in the theater group. And it was just a really nice thing to see that support and encouragement. I also wanted to thank all the teachers and administrators that sent messages to all of us about the Mental Health Day. I want you to understand that we really do think about you and what you are giving to our students, and that you are so very important to us. And we hope you enjoy that day to come back and be that person for that student that needs you. So we just thank you all. And also, I wanted to thank Mrs. Kimsey and Mrs. Dixon for building up students to want to be educators. Many of the bills are discouraging our educators, and these 2 educators are encouraging others to become teachers. And we thank you for doing that. And we want everyone to understand that education is a noble profession, and it runs our world, it feeds our minds, and we need to thank everyone who steps up to be an educator. And we just thank you for doing that. And we thank people who are encouraging others to do that. Thank you all. It's an honor to be on this board.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Just a quick couple of notes and then we'll go ahead and wrap up. Let's take a look here. I want to, in our consent agenda, there were a couple of donations. I want to sort of highlight them. One was the downtown Rotary of Topeka, who made a donation, as well as Advisors Excel, which made a fairly considerable donation that are going to a couple of schools who could really use that extra support. So I wanted to take a moment to highlight those donations and give our appreciation. It really does take all of us within the schools, as well as those in our community, working together in lots of different ways. And so I'd like to thank them for their donations. Let's take a look here. I look forward to, I'm really thinking about how to have us develop as a board and figure out what I can do, what my role is to sort of it. So I'm looking forward to, first off, sorry to hear that Ms. Cope will be leaving us, and also looking forward to having Ms. Whiteman join us and looking forward to have conversations with her as she, in her experience that she brings working with lots of other boards. I'm sure she's seen lots of boards and the issue that they deal with, and that experience I think is going to help us develop and most importantly help our students move forward and our district move forward and to continue the progress we've already been making for years now. Couple of other things. I just echo what everybody has said as far as the legislature. I want to encourage everyone, however you fall on the issues, to speak with your legislature. Recently, I just finished our parent-teacher conferences with my kids, and myself, my wife, and all of its kids there in front of was speaking with the teacher. So that was really an opportunity for me and my wife to talk about what our kids are learning about and ask questions and think about, how can we help them be more successful? And so I just encourage that there are lots of ways to learn about your kids and their education and be involved. In a couple of weeks, I'll be volunteering, selling beverages in Highland Park. And so there are all sorts of opportunities for us as parents to be involved. And it really is up to us. And so if you're at the legislature, if you're seeing what's going on, speak up. In my experience, what parents are most worried about are their kids. They're worried about their safety of the kids while they're with us. Those are the things they're most concerned. And so speak up at the legislature, make sure they hear what you feel. And the last thing I would say is, as on Mental Health Day, I'm really going to spend some time myself and my wife sending messages to our kids' teachers, and just I want them to come back on Tuesday and see thank yous and see we appreciate you, and see messages that help to just cap off their Mental Health Day with messages of welcoming and appreciation. So I'd encourage anyone else who has kids there, or even if you don't have kids, send messages to those teachers who could use that bright message. And with that, I think we are done. Looking for a motion to, unless there's anything else, looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, Dr. Bowenbrake has motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Boley. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. All right. Looks overwhelming. Opposed? Okay. Well, that is it. We'll go ahead and adjourn for today. Thank you, everybody, for all of your time. We look forward to seeing you soon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.